computer. I don't know where it goes when you record it in the cloud, but
I don't know. No idea.
all right. Let's see. Let me share screen. Oh, and of course there we go. Of course I'm about to sneeze. Ah, okay. Welcome everybody to Image Builder office hours. It's the 11th of September. And we have this meeting every 2 weeks. Image Builder is a project of SIG cluster Lifecycle. So we're under the general Kubernetes community umbrella, which as far as the code of conduct boils down to, please don't talk over each other. Please try to be kind and welcoming to everyone. We don't generally have any problems with this, but this is what we're supposed to say when we start the meeting. This is also a time where if someone's new to the meeting, we can, it's a great time to introduce yourselves. I think that's not the case here, so we can skip over that. Yeah, let's just get right into it. Drew, you were just talking about the app repos changes.
Yeah, so obviously it's come up obviously as a reminder recently about the change of the app repos, the fact they've been frozen and new ones are coming about. So I thought I'd drop this in. I think it was when would it have been? Last Friday or Thursday, maybe even probably before that. But then obviously as I was writing it in, I thought I'll just check the PRs to see what's going on. Saw that there was already a PR in for it. So it's more just a case of keeping our eye on it and just make sure everything's moving forward nicely before the 13th when it gets frozen. Not that it really affects us directly straight away, but it's obviously as we start any upgrades moving forward, it's going to be a thing we need to pay attention to, isn't it? But it looks like you've already done it and it's merged, and it's more just kind of getting it into a release, the next one that comes about. So, phew, I guess.
Well, I think so, but unfortunately, our end-to-end tests don't cover everything. So there's the potential that some other distro were not actually testing breaks as a result of this, but hopefully not. Maybe the only other interesting detail here is you can, if you look at the PR, it's pretty straightforward. I ended up just replacing the URLs pretty much one for one. Some of the little silly details changed, like the name they call the RPM that has changed. But what we ideally would have done is change the entire approach. So that's just using the Ansible apt key setup thing, which is essentially sort of deprecated now because the next release of Ubuntu will not have apt key as a utility. My understanding is it's a moderate security risk because when you import a key using apt key, it drops it into that etc apt trusted keys.d or something like that. And all those keys get looked at every time you access any repo. So potentially that's not great. They should be one for one ideally. And there's a way to do that, but it involves not using apt key. And so apt key is deprecated. So there's a new recipe for how you're supposed to do this going forward in Ansible. That worked fine. And it essentially just is download the key file, put it in a different directory. And then when you set up the apt repo, reference specifically that key. There's just a little syntax to do that. And then, when you're downloading from that repo, it's only ever checking the one key and things are coherent. That works great for Ubuntu 22.04. For some reason, I could not get it to work for 20.04, even though it looks like it should. So I didn't do that. But in the future, we should take a look at somehow supporting this the future-proof way. I think I made some brief notes in the PR, but anyway, that's my brain dump. Sorry for the too much detail.
No, that's fine. It's fine. I don't actually know when. I can't actually think when 20.04 is deprecated. End of life. So it's probably not something we can really just say, we'll sort it when it's end of life, because it's going to be a while off yet, isn't it? I think it's going to be another few years. So we should probably have a look at how we can approach that.
Yeah, Marcus?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. So yeah, any ideas, obviously.
The thing is, do we have an issue to cover that you just mentioned, Matt? So that it's not just
I'll put an issue in.
Cool. Just so it's not just in your head.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
An issue about dropping apt key support. Okay. But yeah, hopefully that's the end of it with this PR merging. Although I wouldn't be surprised if we get some bug reports at some point.
Yes.
Because we can't test everything, unfortunately.
It looks good. It's close enough for now.
Right on. Okay. Marcus, you want to move on to rate limiting?
Yes. So as you likely know, we've had some issues lately with the GitHub token rate limiting stuff since we moved our tests to the new community-owned EKS cluster. There's a bunch of discussion with the various teams that rely on that cluster. And I believe changes have now been made that the nodes within that cluster now get public IPs rather than going through a NAT gateway. So the cluster is now very similar to the old cluster that we had in GCE. And hopefully that has now reduced the occurrence of the rate limiting because we've now got a large pool of IPs to pull from when to use when pulling from GitHub. Matt, I saw you triggered some tests earlier today, and it looks like none of those failed with the rate limiting, and I don't recall seeing any others in the past like week or so. So I think that's at least given us some breathing room. Yeah, I know that test failed for another reason.
For some other inscrutable reason, but not the one we were, yeah.
So I think at least for the time being, we're probably good. I don't know whether you want to close off that issue that we've got open tracking that now. I mean, technically we could still hit it because we are still pulling from a finite pool of IPs based on the nodes, depending on, I guess, how they've got auto scaling set up on that. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't yet heard whether they plan to still go ahead with creation of a shared GitHub token for teams to use within their tests or not. The last I heard was that was an option, and then this suggestion of just switching to using public IPs was brought about, and that was easy to implement, it seems. So, yeah. I think we're good for the time being.
I agree. Sorry, I meant to raise my hand, but I literally can't find the control when I'm presenting. I've been looking around for so not sure. But yeah, I totally agree with everything you said. I haven't seen that specific error happen in a while, whereas at the time we reported this as a problem, it was rampant. It happened on everything. So this is clearly probably fixed it for now. If they were able to put in that specific token, that would still probably make the whole environment even safer. But as it is, I think we can probably just close the issue and then open it again or something similar if it crops up. So that's great.
Yeah, okay. I can do that now then with a little note. I'm personally following those upstream issues as well. So if they do have progress or whatever, I can report back.
That's awesome. I'll just put a little note in here. Seems like it's not a problem. All right. Cool. Well, if there's nothing else on that, I had the next one, which is just we had the idea that before we jumped up to Containerd 1.7, since that potentially can rock the world for people, we should do a release. And then, Marcus, you probably put this note in about we should.
Yes, it is. Sorry.
Yeah, which I totally agree. That makes perfect sense. So maybe after, and I was planning on doing that, and maybe can get to that today or tomorrow. Unless one of you is really gung-ho about it, I'll go ahead and take a look. All right.
Yeah, I think that was the only thing that came out from last week when we discussed, not last week, week before, when we discussed the change.
Okay. I think that's entirely reasonable. So I'll try and make a PR soon, and then once that's merged, we can tag a new release, and then we can explore new Containerd.
Sounds
which
good.
hopefully it's a no-op, but it's such a fundamental piece. You never know. We should be careful.
Yes.
It's that the should word, isn't it? That you always use. It shouldn't make a difference.
A dangerous word.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Good deal. All right, and then Marcus.
Yeah, this last one's just me asking on behalf of a colleague of mine that asked in our Slack a few days ago. I don't think, Drew, you're not using vSphere, are you?
Not as of yet. We may be doing
No.
soon, but obviously that's not useful to you today.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we don't use it at the moment.
The question basically is anybody building OVA images for CapV within a Docker container using Image Builder? It doesn't seem like it's actually possible. You seem to rely on some VMware utilities that you get as part of running VMware. So yeah, that was something I was not aware of, if that is the case. It does somewhat murk the opinion of should the Docker container be the officially supported way if you can't actually run one of our providers in that way. Yeah, okay. If
Is it? Sorry.
No, I'm gonna say if neither of you actually have the answer, then that's fine. I just thought I'd bring it up while we were here in case just so happens that there was somebody that did know.
I don't know. I've thought about seeing if I could get a vSphere account somehow to use, but it seems like a fair amount of work. I don't know who I'd ask. And just in general, I wish I had more flexibility. Right now, I can really only build Azure targets because I have an Azure account.
Yeah.
But I wish I had somewhere where I could build, the QEMU stuff. And I have thought about like making I guess you can do nested virtualization and maybe do that in a cloud image, but it sounded but I haven't had a Friday to try that out. So at this point, I really wish I had a vSphere account. Maybe we could explore. Maybe they could give us one for testing or something. I don't know.
I mean, there is a larger discussion here about wanting to improve our tests in general and to cover more of the providers.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of areas that are completely missed either through our own lack of knowledge of those areas or just lack of availability to resources to do those things. Yeah, I wonder if that's something we should start pursuing more actively. I don't know how we'd go about that, but
I agree with that though, because obviously as I put that NVIDIA stuff in with the S3 stuff, and there was a bunch of other things it affected just around the additional components and that. And obviously I was like, well, I don't use that directly at the moment. I do now, which is why I discovered it. But if we had something there that could, I mean, I'd say we can't cover all scenarios, but we can probably cover most. It's just having the infrastructure there to do those things, isn't it? And run test cases against it. Yeah, so it's a case of how do we even go about that? Do you think VMware will be kind enough to share a resource with us to go, hey, we want to do CapV? Maybe they will. I
mean,
sorry, go on.
Sorry.
I was going to say on that note, though, is it not something they can provide as an additional package that they install or anything via a load of additional components? I'm not sure if that would work for them or not, because it needs to maybe it needs to be in Docker already or something. I'm not sure. I'm just kind of speculating. That
seems to be the thing. Like, it needs this tool in the environment, but it looks like it's only available like as part of vSphere. Either a vSphere virtual environment or a vSphere workstation.
Yes, so I think I know which tools it is now. Yeah, I think I know which ones it is. Yeah. I remember reading it at the time and I thought to myself, we could probably just do it via local, additional components, and then realize that would put it in the image, not in the environment that's doing the building. And that's where the problem was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, I
right.
On-prem is not my area of expertise, so I was helping as much as I could. But
So I've had to
That's fine.
relearn on-prem. I went into the cloud from on-prem and now I'm back on-prem at the moment. So it's nice to jump back and forth. Get a mix of everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No worries then. If
Yeah, I
if
don't
there's
have
no
a suggestion for that.
I don't really either.
But it does
I-
obviously, like I say, it raises the question of if the Docker is well, not if it's the right approach, but we need to figure out a way of maybe adding things to that environment, I guess, that would support things like this.
The kind of perspective I was given previously by Cecile, who used to maintain Image Builder, and by James, who's been here for a while, is we do our best in E2E, and then the rest of it is really on individual providers to maintain, and that.
Yeah.
And I think that's true, but it still seems like there's a lot. I mean, that's obviously true, but it seems like we could be testing more at the core somehow.
And I do wonder if we should be working closer with the providers to build out those provider-specific tests as well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I guess you do with the CapZ stuff. But like with the other providers,
we dog food it pretty closely. So CapZ is obviously a very heavy user of it, but I wish other providers were kind of at the same level. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how Amazon builds their images. I don't know how whether Google actually uses the stuff that's in here. I kind of doubt it.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
The CapG provider is under-maintained at times. It could do with more love, I think. Or at least when I was using it last year anyway. Which is a shame.
It's fine. I mean, people are probably going to do their own things. Maybe Kappa, Amazon probably would build their images in their own way regardless, but just based on how they've been participating in the community, they often have different anyway. But it would be nice if we had more tests. It also feels like a way to keep people involved with the project. I don't want just to be the a few providers.
Yeah, it'd also be good to be able to confidently make a change that works in the setup that you want it to,
right?
Without breaking, Proton. It's like an OS that I've never used before.
You can see how worried I am about what might still happen is just changing this repository and what might happen with Containerd, and that's just because I don't really have an idea what the splash damage is going to be.
Yeah, there's just too many like matrix configurations to try out.
Yeah, so just do our best.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Cool. Well, that's all we had on the agenda. Anything else on your minds?
Nothing
just quickly,
off top. Sorry, go on, Walkers. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say very quickly. There's been no updates on the HashiCorp stuff. I've heard nothing more.
No,
just in case you're wondering.
I was about to say. I said I was going to have a chat with my boss, who was going to speak to. Her name just got out of my head. Amanda Brock, and apparently she's not said much on the fact. Let's say. So unfortunately, there's nothing come up from that side. I think it's probably just wait and see if anything comes from CNCF about it.
We've got. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Drew.
I was going to say I think it will be okay. It's more the end users that'll have to deal with it, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's
It seems like it's a good thing that we designed the Docker image to download Packer just in time, because I think that technically means we're not distributing it and all that. But even if we were, we've pretty much gotten a green light from Microsoft legal. They don't think we're doing anything that's going to be problematic, even if we go to 2.0 with the BPL or whatever the license is. I have to say Microsoft legal is really got their act together, and they get back to me very quickly, and they don't mess around. So they said it all looks fine a couple of weeks ago. So I'm going with that until I hear otherwise.
That's good news.
Yeah,
which doesn't strictly apply to the CNCF, but I think it kind of overlaps the usage. Yeah.
There was an update to the FAQ page that HashiCorp had, and it kind of addressed some of our concerns as well in there. That as an open source project, we're pretty much okay. So I think Image Builder using Packer, fine, and I think even for our users, it's fine. The only concern I still have is that technically the CNCF doesn't want us using that license. Doesn't want us using a dependency with that license, and that's what I haven't heard back about yet.
Right.
I mean, if they say no, we can't use it, then I guess we stop.
I mean, there's a major redesign happening there, then, isn't there?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that'd be a start from scratch, in my opinion.
Yeah, it would. It would. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
But,
It would be a
yeah.
maybe we fork Packer from that place and just maintain it. I don't know. People have mumbled about that stuff on the internet, but I don't think that's actually happened. These
Yeah, but
HashiCorp
Yeah.
projects are so big.
Does the pre-existing license allow for us to do license changes? That's the thing.
I mean,
know.
based
I
on
don't
the
know.
open
This is
Terraform
not an
project,
area.
I was going to say, just the open Terraform project have they've basically managed to get away with sticking with the original license by forking it from the version that was before BSL. But then HashiCorp released an update saying that they can't now pull providers or plugins, I can't remember the naming of it, on Terraform from HashiCorp's basically repos. So now they're having to find a way around that side of things. So I'm just wondering if it's going to be the same thing where if even if we did fork Packer, can we still use all the additional Packer sorry, the word's gone out.
Providers and
bad night with the daughter. Then like the providers and the plugins and that, could we still use them because they're coming from HashiCorp servers, or it's so it's going to be a tricky one to navigate around. That's for sure.
Well, we'll just wait and see. We've done what we can in terms of letting the appropriate people know and following the suggested, requesting an exception and stuff from CNCF. So
yeah,
we just have to wait and see.
We're on the latest Packer release that's out there, and it's not going to break. So
yeah,
there's no rush, I guess.
Yeah, we have time.
All right, shall we call it a day?
For me, so. I've got nothing else that I can think of off the top of my head to raise, so sounds good to me.
See you in a couple of weeks.
Yes, take care, everyone.
Online.
Have a good one.
Hey.
Bye.